Hey everybody, I'm here at the Worcester Library with my new friends Old School and Jess. I met Jess going to some of the meals out here in Worcester, and I found that they're really good people and they have interesting stories. So, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Hang in there.
So, I guess maybe we could do a little backstory. So Jess, tell me about your experience. How'd you end up homeless?
I ended up homeless. Actually, I've been homeless off and on my whole life. But I ended up in Worcester in general because of my spouse. Long story short, they had mental health challenges. I chose to walk away for a bit to kind of get that together. And that actually improved my relationship. Since then, we are back together, but I've been homeless on and off, for a long time. It's never been stable because of economy and stuff like that.
So how do you find it staying out here, living homeless?
It's actually better than most of 90% of the shelters in Worcester. I have experienced shelter life here in Worcester. It's actually ran by an agency that is bottom of the barrel. Worse than Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I am from.
What happened over there? How are they treated?
There was discrimination and sexual advances by male staff and stuff where it became HIPAA violations, violating my. I was meeting with a supervisor named Heather that was having a meeting with me on a form and needed help filling out, and that became a issue where male staff that was also causing issues with me made advances and also almost violated my privacy of having respectful space.
So they were making advances.
She was filling out a grievance form, and this particular caseworker, well, staff member, decided to interfere with the meeting by trying to barge in on her more than once. And this is the same one that, he's got a reputation for buying drugs from clients, which I myself have seen him do, and he'll go out into the parking lot on break and smoke pot in his vehicle.
So he's very unprofessional doing even corrupt criminal things.
Yes.
And discriminating against you because of your transgender.
Yes.
And making unwarranted sexual advances toward her, and then also making statements that were directed toward her, and he also had made statements directed toward me behind my back.
Okay, and because of this, once you have an issue with the shelter, you kind of you're stuck on the street here, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Old School, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here.
So 4 years ago, I was happily married in an excellent marriage, 13 years worth of marriage total. I had one wife that died in 2015, the other one died in 2019. I ended up homeless because I lost my job, my wife, and my place to stay within a matter of a week, within the same week. The building that we had lived in, a new owner had bought it, and he just basically Mickey Mouse the place so bad where the city basically considered it uninhabitable for humans to be in. My wife was removed and put in respite, which cost me my job, and then she died over there in respite. And I ended up being homeless as a result of it.
Okay.
Now, for the first few months, I was living in tents. And then I ended up at Queen Street Shelter, and that was the biggest mistake of my life to be there.
So tell me about how you ended up at the shelter.
Well, I had been living in tents. I ended up, I was supposed to be a person's living caregiver. I was staying with them for a while. They passed away, and the agency that they were working with, which is Open Sky, threw me under the bus when she died. They were supposed to have put me on her lease. They were supposed to get me set up as her living caregiver, but with the COVID happening, they kept making excuses of, oh, the person that was handling the lease was on vacation, and they just never put through any of the paperwork. Now, when she died suddenly from COPD-related illness, and no autopsy was ever done, but I just suspected it was COVID because a PCA that had worked for her came to work with being infected with COVID. But since they never did an autopsy, well, that will never be proven. Ended up homeless again. Ended up having a tent that I was in that was stolen by Department of Public Works. And I ended up being exposed for three days and 3 nights
In the cold,
in the cold winter time during the sub-zero, -0 temperatures. Ended up at Queen Street. 2 weeks later, I ended up in the hospital for 9 days. With Queen Street, they had put me upstairs eventually where you pay rent. My AFTC case got closed, and well, they have this habit of, when they do evictions, instead of going through proper channels like Worcester Housing Authority, they went through Springfield Courthouse, knowing damn well I couldn't get there. And basically, they locked the door of my room over a week before the court hearing was even supposed to be done. So I ended up not having a place to stay again. And once they evict you from anything that's ran by SMOC, you're not allowed to use the shelter system, period. And the shelter system right now is ran by SMOC, both Queen Street and MLK. So you get banned from the shelters if you get evicted.
So they put you out. So and you kind of end out in the street here. There's a lot of people in the street. So tell me how you two met.
Well, we met down here at the library because I come down here to charge up my phone, stuff like that. In fact, because the library is pretty good about that one with the homeless, allowing them to have a place where they can charge up their phones and stay warm. Because I'm also like a liaison between the homeless and the library. And she started coming into the library when she became homeless, and then she asked me for help. And because I am what's considered a street elder with the homeless community, when she asked for help, well, help was granted.
And so you guys two ended up kind of staying together out there.
Yes.
So tell me what like the experience has been living homeless out here. It seems like it's a rocky road dealing with social services.
Yes.
So what's it been like living homeless? The experience, having your community, and like kind of living out here.
Well, Worcester, the government here in Worcester doesn't give a shit about the homeless. The standing orders that have come from the mayor's office with the police department is when you find a tent city, they're to seize the tents, seize the property, and then that gets taken to the dump and destroyed. Now, if you're on property that has railroad tracks on it, their employees have been told to, if they find a tent, slash it and destroy all property. Now, at my first tent site, I actually caught two CXX workers getting ready to slash my tent. And they were kind of, how shall I say, persuaded not to follow through with it.
Okay.
I have also have my experience with Worcester is they don't give a shit about the homeless, including also health and well-being. I have since I've been out here been assaulted 4 times by another trans that has a vendetta against me because didn't like the rejection of the answer of this one. Um, and I have 2 kneecaps that have been dislocated. I have no kneecaps anymore. That's the healthcare, as you could imagine, sucks. That does pertain to homelessness. So, if you want any type of social services, health services, don't come to Worcester. I'm gonna be honest with anybody. I would say because you can end up dead.
Now, the problem with the programs that are available here in Worcester is if you are not an active addict, active alcoholic, ex-convict, or mentally ill, there are no programs to help you at all. Now, myself, I don't fall under any of those 4 categories. So as far as getting assistance or some type of program that could help me to get on my feet, there isn't any. I've had, like, one of the situations we had at one of our tent sites, we had a note left on our tent, and they put it on there while we were sleeping, that simply stated, leave or tent will be removed.
Yeah.
And it was put on the back of a gas station sales receipt. Now, Betterment for Life, as they call it, who are supposed to help the homeless, one I've noticed in the last 4 years is they're picky about who they'll help. They go and claim, okay, only way we can help you is if we find you at your tent site. But even when they're told where your tent site is, if you're not of a certain ethnic group, they pretty much put it on the back burner, and they are very selective on who they actually will help. And 9 times out of 10, whenever Betterment for Life shows up, within 24 to 48 hours, the police show up with a paperwork saying, you either leave or you'll get arrested for trespassing.
Yes.
Okay.
And they'll take your tent and your stuff and destroy it. Now, that's been the standing order that's been given to the police department by the city of Worcester. DPW, well, their orders basically is if they find a tent, like under a bridge or near a bridge, they're told just to steal it. That's what they did to me, which ended up almost costing me my life. I ended up with severe pneumonia, pulmonary embolisms in the lungs, and 2 that went off in my heart.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
And luckily I survived it. There's a lot of things that have been going on in Worcester that the general public has not seen. And it's getting to a point where homeless people are dying because there is no help given to them. It's a bunch of lip service.
Okay.
I've done several wellness checks over the last 4 years, and 90% of them, I ended up finding a person dead in their tent.
Yes.
Because they did not have availability to the so-called services that have been promised.
What are the people dying of?
One lady, she died of cirrhosis of the liver. Her liver exploded. But she tried to get help with detoxes and that. And they kept doing stall tactics on her. Some have died from overdoses, which is tragic. And some people say, well, they were using drugs, so basically, oh well. Others died from exposure to the elements because they couldn't stay warm, even in their tent. I know one person was 30 years old, in excellent health, wasn't an addict, wasn't an alcoholic, didn't have a criminal record, wasn't mentally ill, but because she could not stay warm, because she didn't have heating source and enough blankets, she literally froze to death in her own tent over the winter. And because nobody even really knew her, and when she went missing, nobody even looked for her until one person said, "Hey, have you seen so-and-so?" And I was like, "No," but I knew where her tent was. And when I went into the wellness check, I found her decomposing body. She had been dead for approximately a month and a half. The autopsy was ruled that she had died of hypothermia.
That's sad. So you told me a story earlier, which was interesting. The lightning hitting the tent story. That was
Yes, that was Jess's first tent. It was a one-person tent. Luckily for her, I had grounded one side of the tent with 3 metal pegs. Because if I had used the plastic pegs, like what she wanted to buy, well, she would have become a crispy critter because she had a severe lightning strike that hit the tent bad enough where it popped one of the pegs out of the ground and sent it flying 2 feet from where the tent was originally set up. And she woke up upside down in a tent that was flooding.
so yeah, that's pretty crazy, and just to think that like things like that can happen. So how do you two feel about being able to have each other kind of to look out for each other and like the good times? What are there any good times like staying out here homeless?
We've had plenty, actually. We every day the way we stay positive isn't like a normal person in a house or out sleeping in doorways. We keep positive just by each other, and what I mean by that is I have a severe issue with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and this one is the one that keeps me going every day. So every day that I am handling depression or PTSD, I'm always grateful to see this one still living. And
Like one way I improved the atmosphere of our tent was because of my knowledge with primitive survival skills, because I'm also Native American, with how cold at night it can get. Well, I built what's called an Apache fire pit, which you can use actually inside a tent instead of outside.
and that increased our survival rate
And
by a lot.
by venting the tent so that you allow smoke to go out of the tent, I was actually able to bring warmth into the tent by setting up by having a fire in the tent.
And it's actually a safe way we did it too. We used rocks and in another trash can lid. We found scavenging. We see on a daily we go around scrapping or finding things left in woods areas of other homeless sites have been destroyed. We usually sometimes gather up stuff if we can find stuff. And we sometimes have had issues where let's say if we're dealing with DPW, CSX, or one of those destroyed tents, we've been able to find stuff and actually reuse it and actually improve the lives of others. Certain situations we've actually helped other homeless, such as for example, like this one son Daniel, we helped him recently. He was homeless, sleeping in doorways, park benches. I bought him a tent because I don't want him to end up like a lot of these homeless people out here. I try to do everything I can to reach out to people that are struggling. I've taken higher initiatives to helping. I'm also a 5-year registered pastor through Universal Life Ministry. I believe in the philosophy of giving as much as I can to help others. I'll do it in a safe manner. I always try to help where I can. And even when I'm homeless, I try to reach out to those that are the farthest lost.
What do you both think would improve the situation out here for people that are homeless?
Well, one, an official tent city. There's several pieces of land that you can actually do a official tent city. And if they took the blueprint from New York or even Las Vegas, Nevada, and set up a tent city where you have one person that is in charge of the tent city and has the availability toward resources that are in need by homeless people, like medical, lawyers, uh, housing representatives. That would help the homeless in general. Getting supplies for the homeless, which would consist of heating devices that could be used in tents during the wintertime. That would be helpful to the homeless because, when you're homeless, the needs that you have, they do change from what you would say the needs that you would have if you were in an apartment.
That is very true.
The first need is a safe place to sleep. That is a necessity. Second thing is sleeping bags, blankets, stuff like that. Third, having a way to, if you're at your tent, to cook meals.
Yeah.
Like homing stoves or even single burners that run off of propane. Electricity. Now, there's so many portable generators brands out on the market nowadays, which includes solar-powered ones. That would be beneficial because that would help them being able to charge phones or any electrical devices that they need, that they have, that helps them even with morale. Like a lot of homeless people, they get these Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that so that they can listen to music, because a lot of them will listen to music at night because that, excuse me, that helps their own morale and lift up the spirits, because at night, that's when it can be the worst for somebody who's homeless, because that's when a lot of negativity can sit in the most.
Yeah.
Now Worcester, yeah, it's a city where you really can't go hungry if you're homeless, because they do have St. John's in the morning. They have the Mustard Street at night, Monday through Friday. Saturdays, well, that's a little iffy. You got Pastor Richie's, you've got All Saints. You got a group that shows up at the YMCA on Main Street for a lunch. But as far as having like the meals that you would have available to you during the weekdays, that's where you end up eating maybe 1 to 2 meals per day on Saturday and Sunday, whereas you can eat at least 2 to 3 meals a day, Monday through Friday. But there's a lot of little things that could be done to help boost morale with people. And instead of being given empty promises, having the city fall through with promises already made. I mean, right now, the mayor's office, the last quote unquote official listing for the amount of people homeless by the mayor's office, they stated 300. And in actuality, there's over 5 to 10,000 people homeless. Most of them are living in tents, sleeping in doorways, sleeping on park benches. Now, Worcester really needs to get on the ball and try to help people instead of just pushing it under the carpet.
Okay. So this is the last question. What do you want society to know? What do you want, the world to know about homelessness and your thoughts and feelings on what they should know?
Well, as you keep in mind that anybody can become homeless. You don't have to have an addiction or make bad choices to end up homeless. And people that are homeless, look, they're either somebody's father, son, mother, daughter, sister, brother, or cousin. And they should keep that in mind instead of just think of them as just numbers and just things to be thrown away.
Thank you so much. That's really powerful. I appreciate you taking the time today and sharing your stories. Before we close out, is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
No, I don't have it there.
All right, cool.
No, I read that.
All right, well, thank you both.